I'm pretty sure you just made all of our viewers shit their pants.
Commentary, son. Holy shit! Myself thinking.
One little action can really make a whole huge deal in the entire set.
The unity you did was a fucking stupid.
Happy feet, combo,
PC survives that attack. Both players are on their feet again, they hit each other. Oh my god.
All right, everybody, welcome to Directional Influence, Episode 4, the most popular podcast in India, as far as I'm concerned. Welcome to the show. With me, as always, is Matt and Will. First off, Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing just great.
Wonderful. Will, how about you?
I'm doing excellent. How about you?
I'm doing very good, actually. Just fine and dandy. And with us today, joining us for the part of the show, is someone you guys may know. Sort of, not really. I don't know if you guys know him. He goes by the name of Alex Strife, maybe. I don't know. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Cool. So we got Alex here. You guys probably know him from stuff like Apex and the little stuff that he does. But actually, no, it's pretty cool. So we're gonna have him here. We're gonna be talking to him about upcoming tournaments like Viridian and Apex 2012.
Yeah.
And then we will be having a pretty awesome interview. We can't spoil that right now, but we are going to have a pretty awesome interview, so stick around for the end of the show, too. And, stick around for the whole thing. Welcome to Episode 4 of Directional Influence. So, we have Alex here with us, obviously. Alex, we're going to start off with Viridian, the upcoming Viridian tournament. Can you please, give us a little overview of what's going to be, we're going to see there at that tournament?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. Basically, Viridian City is going to be on my birthday. It's going to be October 23rd. We're going to start a little bit earlier, about an hour earlier, but that's because we want to take into account more people. And it's also going to be the week after MLG, so everybody's going to be hyped, excited, ready to go again, and pretty much that's it. And there's also one big thing. We moved venues. We moved from the older venue, which was the East Spot, to a much larger venue known as Velocity 17. We did a couple events there with KOTC, who's sponsoring this event with some televisions and maybe some more stuff down the road. But it's pretty much same prices. The venue's $10, but it's 100% worth it, and it has food, and it has go-karts, which, if you ever listened to Attorney Fix by J.G. Wentworth back in the day, you actually would see we actually had a go-kart tournament, and I believe ADHD won, which was kind of funny.
Now, with this one, are you expecting the same amount of people to show up compared to past Viridian tournaments?
Well, everybody knows me. Like, when I put effort into a tournament, I actually get a lot of people, and I'm actually putting a lot of effort into this. Our goal is to hit 70, 80, hopefully 100. I always like to hit 100 because it's just a nice number to hit. We have people from out of state coming. Kira Flax is going to come down. Talking to mikeHAZE and Havoc and possibly Larry, depending on their personal financial situation. Ally, of course, will always be there. ADHD, Adamus, most of them MDVA will be coming down, and probably a lot of people. But to answer your question, yeah, I'm expecting. I want to get a good amount. I want to hit 100.
I remember the coolest part about Alex's Viridian City tournaments is that for the longest time I hadn't been able to attend them because it was a point at which, most of Long Island, we didn't really start traveling yet. But, once we started traveling, once I started actually going into New Jersey, the first Viridian City tournament that I went to was VC6. And at that point, the Viridian City tournaments were still gaining hype, and they were progressively having more and more entrants each time. And this is when it still took place at the East Spot. And I believe that tournament had 99 singles entrants, which was pretty awesome. But anyway, that was pretty much the first tournament that I was able to drive the whole Long Island carpool out to and experience what was basically a very large regional, almost in that venue. It couldn't even really house a national, but it kind of felt like a national because there were people from every region there. There was literally New England, MDVA, New York, New Jersey, the entirety of Atlantic North was there. So you could pretty much expect that when you go to a Viridian City tournament. because Alex hypes those pretty well.
It's kind of interesting because I don't really try to hype. I just ask a bunch of people, say, hey, come down. I want to see you guys. Like right now, I'm trying to convince UDD Zach, who's like, for Game & Watches, I'm a Game & Watch Mark fan. He's like the guy, and he's doing so well. And I'm like, please come. You and Lee Martin should team up because Lee's coming down. And it's just interesting because, for somebody like me, I look back on it and I never really think that I'm that good of a host. I'm always telling myself I did this bad, but everybody keeps saying I do well. I don't know. I'm just trying to be like modest with it, I guess.
I think the thing is that what you don't realize is that when you TO stuff, it's actually the most timely event because you have the balls to go and kick people off of friendlies because for whatever reason, you're able to just not give a shit and just kick people off for the sake of the tournament, get the tournament running. And like one of the most comments that I hear after one of your tournaments, even one of those random game tables that you decided to come down and help co-host, that was like the fastest run tournament on Long Island. Like we got it done by like 6 or 7 p.m. Everyone was extremely happy. We got to play a lot of friendlies. And I think part of the reason everyone appreciates your TO experience so much is that you do criticize yourself and you do question everything that you think you didn't do right, and it just, it makes the next tournament experience that much better.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Like, it's very refreshing to just hear that, even though I probably heard it so many times. It always, I always strive to give the best event possible, and I learned that from a good friend of mine named Warrior Zerona was, for all the old school fans. Just the way he did things is the way I try to do things now, except, I try to be myself as well.
What do you think you do anything differently compared to other TOs at your tournaments?
I want to say that I don't, but when I look at other people who run their tournaments, you kind of see that you do. One of the big things is, I don't try to cater to, the higher class players. I try to cater to everybody. So I always try to treat everybody with like 100% respect. If somebody's new, I try to go out of my way to make sure they have a good time. And I try to focus really on just getting, people to enjoy the event, not just be there and see top players. On the flip side, I just try to make sure that everybody that's there realizes that this is something that I put a lot of care in. And I'm not going to say that other TOs don't do that, but I do feel when I go to somebody else's event that it's very rare that I feel the same commitment that I give towards the community.
I can actually say that as a fellow TO that I learned a lot from Alex because things go wrong in tournaments, things that you don't expect. And one of the few bits of very useful advice is that if you're using TO as given by, Allah's Brawl, downloaded from Allah's Brawl, if you're using the TO bracket generator, you always want to save that every single time you do something, aside from when you do something wrong, because if that crashes, everything can go wrong. And I remember Alex I don't remember what tournament it was, but he just always reminded me that you should always just save that, make sure nothing goes wrong. And I don't know, just little pieces of advice like that are pretty useful for TOs.
Oh yeah, I mean, TO is, it's a program, but at the same time, it's still, a program that is still in the beta form, technically. There's no official release for it, so you always have to make sure that you do everything in your power to make sure that your event, doesn't fall apart. I've had TO at a Viridian City crash, and I had to remake a bracket, which I still haven't done. I just did the top 8 and said, I'm sorry guys, and, but one of the things I try to do is just I own up to my mistakes. If I make a mistake, I just say I made a mistake. I'm a human being. What else do you want me to do? And, people are pretty forgiving, which, is kind of cool. That's what I love about this community. Always forgiving.
Now, I'd also like to mention that with the old venue, the East Spot, there was a little difficulty with movement, and I'm really glad that you moved it to Velocity 17 because I've been to the Velocity 17 venue before, and it's a very nice venue, very large area, a lot of places to move around. And as you said, sponsored by King of the Couch, it's really going to be a great event, great Alex Strife event. And I also noticed this little note here: if you bring a full setup, you will receive free entry. Limit to the first 3 people, and the rest receive $3 off venue. And I guess that's just another example of Alex Strife caring about the community. Tell us how you came upon the little idea that you should do that for people.
Well, what I feel is that people should be compensated for what they bring. At the same time, business-wise, in terms of the tournament itself, we need to make sure that the players are given the proper amount. So I always feel that there has to be some sort of balance, and this actually helps bring out equipment that people will bring, and they usually bring it in droves. I remember Apex we raffled off a free brand new TV, and I had about 50, 60 setups for each event, which was really sweet. But I think that it's one of those things where you're gonna have to do it eventually, because you need to find incentives to bring stuff out. It also has to be something where, well, I don't even know how to describe it, but you want to make sure that the experience is great, and this is one of those things you have to do. I don't see why people don't do it. I just think it's something that needs to be done, actually.
All right, with all of that said, obviously you're the man behind Apex, and the next Apex coming up in 2012. Can you tell us anything about Apex 2012?
I can tell you as much as you want. Pretty much, it's going to be the biggest Smash event of the year. It's actually going to be January 7th through 9th, 2012. We obviously had to move it due to Genesis, who the people at DBR actually did me a favor and said, we're going to move our event. All we asked is that next summer, that you let us run Genesis. And I said, that's fine. Also, with Plank stepping down as a TO, I felt that would be the perfect time to really put that event on and launch it. Now, I can disclose most of the information, but you won't hear official announcements until after Pound, because I want to make sure when I announce everything, it's going to be huge. But I can tell you that it's going to be at the same venue. We're going to have, instead of just Subway, we're going to have all the eateries open as long as possible, probably 12 to 15 hours. We're also going to have some guests, not just guests like Isaiah or whatever. I'm talking about like real actual guests. Like, for example, I'm in talks and with the, nothing official, but the Angry Video Game Nerd. We're working out something with him for for that year. We're also working on Screw Attack. I don't know if you guys heard of them, but they're pretty famous, around like the gaming community. We're also going to be working with, King of the Couch. We're going to probably work with Midnight Gaming Championship. We're also going to be working again with VG Boot Camp, and we're going to have pretty much imagine what we did, but like 20 times better.
That's completely hard to imagine, considering
I have a boner.
I mean, considering Apex was probably one of top 3 Smash experiences of my life, Apex 2010. So I'm so hyped, probably the most hyped about the addition of additional food places at the venue, because that was literally my only gripe with that venue, was that I got so sick of Subway by the end of that weekend, and I really wanted some Dollar Chicken Crisps from Wendy's, but no one ever answered. No one ever answered at Wendy's that weekend.
Yeah, I know how you feel. That's something I wanted to adjust. Another big announcement is I've already started promoting this to Europe, and I already have Mr. R confirmed. I have 80% confirmed Gluttony and his brother. Armada and Aniolis are going to be coming back. They're going to be bringing the Euros. AMSA, who was supposed to come to Apex last year, is going to be coming, barring, knock on wood, something happens again. Another thing is that Apex was the first tournament where I feel that the community as a whole came together, and it wasn't just, a tournament. It was like an experience, and that's really what I'm turning this into. We're going to have music, which Hopefully it would be Anamanaguchi. I don't know. I know they're pretty famous now, but I actually talked to them a while ago. So if you haven't heard them, go play Scott Pilgrim the game. That's basically their music. We're also going to do artist alleys. So my girlfriend not only will be selling stickers, she'll be doing artwork along with a couple of other people. We're going to raffle off for the people who bring setups. Instead of raffling off a TV, we're going to be raffling off a 3DS along with some games. We're also going to raffle off some sticker sets and all that. We're going to do pretty much a lot more stuff. And everything is going to be streamed. Like, everything. Brawl Plus, Brawl Minus, Project M, which by then should be out because I'm talking to Jay Caesar. And we're also going to be probably affiliated with All This Brawl, but that's going to be officially announced or officially done after MLGDC when I meet with JB, who's going to hopefully, love the plan that I had.
From a personal opinion on yours, what do you think? What are you most excited about for this tournament? Like, what gets you hyped up the most about Apex 2012?
Apex 2012 will be where everybody comes. Everybody will be there. And when everybody's there, what's going to happen is you're going to have upsets. You thought Apex 2010 had upsets where Ally gets almost 3-stock by Brood? Imagine when Gluttony comes over. Imagine if he beats MGK and MGK, like, supposed, which he is, the best player, gets like 5th or some lower standard and another player steps up. Or, imagine if UDT Zach comes down and he beats Jason. That's what I'm excited about, the competition. And not even just on the Brawl side, you got the Melee side. You got Axe, the Pikachu player, placing 5th. You have, or 4th, I believe. And you have Taj, a Mewtwo, placing 9th. Imagine when all the Europeans come down there and Japanese Melee players. I have Mach Dash willing to come down. And he's, considered the best player in Japan. So imagine all these top players and the quality of the tournament. And then everybody plays and everybody's going to be excited. And the big thing is that we're not doing crews. We're doing crews in the beginning, though, but it's not going to be crews. It's going to be one big event. It's going to be United States versus the entire world. And this is not going to be like Pound where it's like, It's going to be like hype for both Brawl and Melee. We're talking about the best Japanese, the best Europeans, the best Canadians, and you're talking about the best of the USA. USA versus the world, now that's going to be amazing.
Oh my god, this sounds so
I just
more
myself.
hype.
You've certainly given everybody in this chat a boner, Alex.
I literally have an erection.
Well, there's more.
There's more. I want to hear more. Keep talking, please.
Okay.
So.
Apex, one of the things that made Apex amazing was the video, the hype video. The hype video, if anybody remembers it, search it on YouTube. It had a song called Seizure of Power by Marilyn Manson, which, if you listen to it, you really don't know it's Marilyn Manson. But regardless, it's a song that was from Resident Evil, the good movie, because the rest are bad. I was kidding. Not really. But, one of the things we're doing is we're going to make more content. And what we're doing is, with the affiliation with Rich Brown, the head of the All This Brawl content team, we're going to be releasing something called the Road to Apex series. The Road to Apex series is basically 4 Melee, 4 Brawl regionals. One on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, one in the Midwest, and one in the South. The winners of that get actually a $50 to $100 stipend to come to Apex. So if you think that people like Felix or people like, for example, Tommy or people like the Shizwiz, people that can't afford to get there. And you're like, man, I want them to come so bad. They're going to have a chance to make money. Not just from the tournament, but from the tournament organizers. And we're not talking about like some random TOs. We're talking about great TOs. Brawls, TOs. And these are not TOs that I just randomly pick. These are the best TOs I can find. Okay, for East Coast, you got me, obviously. From Midwest, you have the Real Inferno. If you don't know who he is, you'll know his tournament series, No Coast. He's doing No Coast for Apex. We have, for the West Coast, and I'll tell you the order once we get this started, once I finish. The Game Clucks guy, he's going to do a special tourney play for me. Now check out the South. The South is one of the biggest regions, so I need to find somebody who not only I can trust, but can give me some great content, great videos and everything, because everything's going to be put onto the Road to Apex. UDD Zach. Best TO in the South right now, at least in my opinion. He knows his stuff, And this is not saying Zyro's good, but Zyro is, he's getting married, so he's going to have other stuff to work with. Then, for Melee, you have me. You have the guy who does good shit German, who's considered a really great TO. He's actually going to be TOing Apex for Melee. You have VRO. He's going to be doing Chicago tournaments for Melee. Everybody knows him. Everybody's going to want to go to him. And for South is a good friend of mine, a very good friend, Hungry Box. We're talking about doing a Watto straight for Apex. And these are not going to be like, Road to Apex. They're going to be named after the tournament because this community needs to get together. And if we can get Apex to be that tournament where everybody works hard and gets together, it's 100% worth it. We have people working on this officially. We have our public relation manager is Vance, who's basically one of my best friends, and he's going to do a great job. You have Jay Caesar, he's doing all the side events. You have my art director is going to be Metal Music Man, and we're going to have a website dedicated to Apex. And once it's up, it's going to be called ApexSmash.com. Now imagine that. And of course we have Rich Brown, he's going to do our content. So we're talking about like a great event. We're not even talking about a tournament. This is beyond anything anybody's ever done. And that's what I bring. I don't just do a tournament. I expand myself to challenge other TOs. And I can tell you this. I don't care what anybody says. After Apex 2012, there will be no doubt that Apex is the tournament for everybody to go to. There's not going to be anything else that compares. And that's why people say I'm the best TO.
And there's definitely talk, like, after Apex 2010, there was talk of, like, could this be Smash's EVO? It's like, have we finally achieved this? And I think you were just hinting at the surface of it. And once we get to the Apex 2012, it sounds like that's going to be our, official ridiculous event that just, like, everybody needs to get to, like, probably from across the entire world, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's going to be something that everybody's going to remember. And everything we're doing with Apex 2012 is an improvement on it 2010. 2010 was the first tournament you had with actual interviews that actually went up. I mean, they went up. We have interviews. We have high quality matches. We have like tight battles, as they say. We have, we had so much content. And imagine more. The more we get, the bigger this event's going to be. And here's one of my favorite parts about 2012. Imagine, you're a newer player. You're there for your first time, and you're like, wow, there's so many people here. But you say to yourself, man, this is about 2010. They're like, man, I wish I would have known more stuff about before Apex. Out of country people, this is my special word to you guys. If you come to Apex 2012, I will give you a personal trip of New York City in the winter. And this is not just like a cold place like London. We're talking about going to Empire State Building. We're talking about going to Rockefeller Center. We're talking about trying to go to New Rock City. We're talking about you get to meet Smashers outside of Smash community. We're talking about for example, what makes me so cool is because if you talk to me outside of the community, I'm the same person. And when you meet these Smashers, they're great people. And that's what people need to understand. This is not just a tournament. This is going to be something that everything changes after this. Everything. There's nothing that's going to be the same. This event is going down in history. There's nobody that can tell me different.
All right, after that awesomeness that was Alex Strife, with us tonight, a very special guest. You guys may know him from some, stuff he does in Smash Bros. He plays Marth, I think. I'm not sure. mikeHAZE is with us tonight. Mike, how the hell are you doing?
I'm very well. Enjoying my night, I guess. It's not too hot here in California. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. I'm assuming Matt and Will are also doing awesome, but I'm not going to ask them. Well, we're going to start off the interview here with you. Just tell us a little about yourself in terms of Smash, like how you got started, and then pretty much until today.
All right, cool. Well, I started in 2006, early 2006. I played Melee. I was a Fox main. I saw some videos on YouTube. Thought it was pretty interesting. So I had a friend that knew advanced tactics in Melee from school, and we held a Melee tournament. So at this Melee tournament, I didn't enter. I was a Halo player at the time. I thought it was good. Played online. So, at this tournament, this guy came. His name was Hugs. I'm like, who the fuck is Hugs, right? Just this Samus player. But I watched him play. I'm like, holy shit, Samus is so broken. So I find this like intense passion for Melee. I go home, I buy a GameCube, I buy Melee, and just have this set up at home. I start playing and playing. So I find out that MLG is going to be in Southern California. I'm like, okay, well, this is a good opportunity. So I go to MLG, Anaheim, 2006, and I'm thinking I'm going to do extremely well. And in my pool, I had this guy. His name was Silent Spectre. You guys might have heard of him. I didn't know who he was at the time. Just thought he was a Falcon player. And I play him, and I get a 4-stock twice. Then I lose to everybody else in my pool pretty much. And it was a very sad day for me. But from there, I guess I kept playing Melee, and I was really bad. I was just awful at Melee for like the 2 years I played it. In the meantime, I was friends with Mango, so I'd play Mango like every week. But I don't know, for some reason I just couldn't really get it. I traveled to Pound 3 for Melee. That was supposed to be the last big Melee tournament before like the Brawl was coming out the next week. So it was supposed to be like one of the last tournaments. I went there, I did awful. I lost to Pika Pika, who is now a Brawl player. Lost him in pools, I didn't make it out. I got like 5th seed. Very sad day for me. Mango won the tournament. And I come back home, and the Melee scene was dead. There's just everybody's playing Brawl. And at the time, I was thinking, like, dude, why is everyone playing this game? Like, what's the hype about it? And I hated Brawl. I just wanted to play Melee because I thought it was decent. So, I don't know, I was kind of forced to play Brawl in the beginning. Like, I'd hang out with Mango and Lucky a lot, and they just wanted to play Brawl. Like, okay. So I started playing Brawl, and I did awful. I was just as bad at it as I was in Melee initially. And over time, I guess, I just progressively got a little bit better, but I was still really bad. I would travel. I went to NorCal a few times. I went to Nevada. But finally, I went to Texas. And in Texas, it was Wobo 1. It was in 2008, I believe. Maybe 2009. I'm not sure the exact date. But regardless, I went to Wobo, and once again, I get raped. I get destroyed. I lose to this guy named Domo, and I lost to DMG, a Wario player. So I'm extremely saddened. I money match everybody at a vengeance and kind of do pretty well. But when I came back home, like I took a week off from Brawl. Nobody went to a tournament. Maybe there wasn't a tournament that weekend. And I had to, so we finally go to a tournament, and I remember in winner's bracket I did like extremely well. I beat Havoc, I beat Larry, or DEHF, and I beat a couple of other good people. I beat Hugs as well. And I got sent to loser's bracket by Tyrant, I believe. So in loser's bracket, I had to face DSF, and I'd never been DSF before. It was just like, I kind of gave up at the time. I remember thinking like, oh, I'm not going to win. This is as far as I'm going to get 4th place. So I'm playing, and then it was 3rd game. I mean, I was surprised I took a match off him. He was extremely frustrated. I'm sorry, it was 5th game, because it was finals. So I was just like, okay, I'm doing really well. And it's Delfino Plaza, and he's doing extremely well against me. He's just like destroying me. And I kind of come back, and then everybody starts cheering for me. I'm like, what? The crowd. So I rode the crowd hype for a little bit, and we're pretty much even. And then I break his shield, and I kill him. I'm like, okay, so now we're both at last stock. And then he got so sad. I don't know if you guys know, like, DSF, he used to get really pissed off and, like, sad when people wouldn't cheer for him. He'd just get extremely annoyed. He just, like, forfeited, basically. He just killed himself when I was up by, like, 90%. I'm like, okay. So I did good that, and then that tournament, I lost to Fiction. And from there, I guess, that encouragement I got from that tournament just kind of boosted me for future tournaments. So from there, I beat DSF, like, a good 15 times in a row. Just every week, I would beat DSF. And I would keep losing to Tyrant, but I wasn't really losing to, really any other people. I was beating Havoc for a while. Larry, him and I would always go back and forth. But, I don't know, just from there, it was just kind of like, I got a lot better. After that, it was EVO 2009. I got to play Ally in winner's bracket, and I 3-1'd him, I believe. So that was pretty impressive. Everyone, that's where it kind of like established my recognition as a Marth player, like one of the best Marth players. I lost to Ally that tournament, but in winners finals, I took Muji King to game 5. I almost 3-0'd him, but I choked. So I know that's just kind of where I started off. Since then, I've traveled to countless states. I've gone to Texas, Nevada, Washington, a few times, Colorado a few times, and traveling to all the MLGs.
Now, at the dawn of your Brawl career, Mike, did you start maining Marth?
No, when I first picked up Brawl, I played Fox because I played Fox in Melee. He's always my favorite character, and I was just so bad. I remember playing with Mango and Gimpy Fish, and I would just get like 2 to 3 stock every time. Like, what am I doing wrong? And they kept saying like, oh, you're trying to play like Melee, and like because you're dumb. So I remember there was this tournament. It was when the Japanese game first came out. It was I was already playing Fox at the time, but there's like a week. Well, whatever. Either way, it was when the Japanese version came out. We had a tournament in SoCal for that like first day it came out, and this player named DC, his name was David Chavez, DC, he went Marth, and he just kept up being out of shield, and nobody could punish it because it was so fast. Like, we didn't have the frames back then, but it was just so ridiculous, and he would kill everybody, and it was just like, I saw the videos, and I was so impressed. So at the time, everybody in Southern California was like, oh, Marth's the best, Marth's the best. So that's when I kind of picked Marth, and I did really bad with him. I remember losing, and people were like, wow, you picked the best character in the game, and you lose. So it was pretty sad. But since then, I just stuck with him. I play a few other characters. I play Meta Knight, play some Snake here and there.
So, how exactly did you go about improving?
I think there's different stages in Smash play. Like, there's the rookie level, there's the intermediate, and the pro. There's a few in between, but let's just go from here. When I was in my intermediate stage, like around the time of Wobo, like before that, I would always ask everybody. That was the thing I would do. I would lose, and I'd be like, well, what do you think I did wrong? What do you think I should try to do? What'd you see? And people would tell me, oh, well, you didn't space this, like you're spacing incorrectly here, like blah, blah, blah. And I would just literally ask everybody what I did wrong. And thankfully, I had a lot of like good help. I had DSF, I had Tyrant, just around like good players actually helping me. So eventually, I was able to improve. So mainly it was asking for advice and trying to implement it as well as I could, and just playing everybody. One of the main reasons why I improved so much at Wobo, taking such a big step from like an intermediate player to what I would call a pro player, was just playing everybody. I was so pissed after losing that I money matched like, I don't know, I came home with like $90 in money matches, just 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and just beating everybody. So just playing a lot of different styles, as well as just implementing what everybody else told me.
Now, I believe the first time you really got a chance to play players outside of the West Coast was Genesis. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your Genesis experience?
I don't really remember Genesis, to be honest. I don't know.
Total blur.
No, I'm serious. I used to be like the biggest stoner ever. I don't know if that's appropriate to say, but yeah, like half of that tournament's gone. I remember I made it to bracket. I don't know who I played in pools or who I played in crews. People said I played Shugo. I don't remember that. But I remember in a bracket I had to play Chip first round, and I don't mean to John, but this kind of what happened my Genesis day 2 morning or day 3, whatever day it was. I was about to play my match, and I go to the bathroom, and I saw like 15 missed calls from my mother. Like, okay. So I call her back, and she says that my uncle was in a car accident, and he's in like critical condition. I'm like, oh shit. And I wasn't really affected at it initially, but going to the match, I'm like, well, I don't really care that much. Like, there's shit going on in my real life as opposed to the game. So I was just playing, and like, I wasn't putting my 100% into it, and people started cheering against me. And I'm like, I'm not really trying. And it wasn't just like, come on, Chip, let's go, Chip. It was like, yo, fuck you, man. You fucking suck dick, Mike. You suck dick. And it was just going pretty hard. So I remember I just like put down the controller and I turned around and like, yo, who's talking? Who said that? And nobody responded. And then I go back and then I just finish my match and lose. So that was winner's bracket. And then loser's bracket, I played Hungry Box. He was pretty good. He almost beat me, but I took the win. I don't remember who else I played. I remember I lost the dojo finally. And I just remember like all he would do was just run up and shield grab. And I didn't understand it all. But the next time I played dojo was at a hobo I went to when I was traveling the country, and I lost to his Diddy Kong because Meta Knight was banned at the tournament. Got 2-0'd by his Diddy Kong. But the next time we played, it was at Active Gamers in California. They came back. Everybody was there. Ally, Dojo, Mewtwo King, everybody. And I 2-0'd Dojo pretty easily.
So, Mike, you said that you've been to all the MLG events. I was wondering, can you describe your experience and the travel? Like, I know it's a long trip, so the travel from California all the way over to Orlando, and could you describe your MLG Orlando experience a little bit? Because, I mean, I was there, and it was my first MLG event, and I don't know I know it wasn't your first, but it was the first for Brawl. And so could you maybe just give people a little bit of an idea of how that first MLG event was for Brawl?
I remember going to the hotel. I arrived at the hotel and I just meet up with all the Smashers. It was just like a regular tournament, but we're at like Walt Disney World, so it's pretty cool. So we're all like smashing in the hotel room. It was just a cool environment to begin with. So when I go to the tournament, I'm just like extremely hyped because it's in the world of Disney. It was the ESPN Center. I'm like, this is awesome. We walk in, the venue's huge. You got you got Dr. Pepper girls, had to take a few peeks, got a hand massage or two. But, as for the tournament, it was just extremely weird, actually, because I've attended tournaments, like, when I was first starting to play and, like, for the first year and a half, maybe, I attended tournaments every week. Like, genuinely every weekend I would go to a tournament. So that like pressure that you get as a player just kind of like rubbed off, like it didn't exist to me anymore. So I remember playing my first match at MLG. First they call my name. I'm like, holy shit! Like this nerves just came back. They just rushed back to me, and it's just like, okay, this is weird. And I had to play some random little kid, some like 9-year-old kid, but still I was extremely nervous. Those nerves would not get out of me. I remember thinking like, if this guy was a little bit better, he would probably beat me. So I don't know. It's a different atmosphere because there's just so much. Everybody wants to do well. You hear that even the name, just like Major League Gaming. It's like that's the top. That's as high it's gonna get. That's the interpretation you get just from the name and from attending the tournaments and the environment you're around. So just like that added pressure is so different from just like a local Ranbat or like a regional tournament.
I could definitely relate to the nerves because you'd think you're a seasoned veteran in Smash and it's been like a few years, you've been going to tournaments every weekend and you just show up at MLG and all of a sudden like you're just the most nervous you've ever been in your life. But like, I mean, that's the pressure that MLG puts on you and the top pros, they're going to perform. They're going to pull through. And that's where that's why we hold that's why we go to the MLG events, because it tests us, puts us to our limits, So
I heard you did a lot of traveling last summer. Can you tell us anything about what seems like a pretty awesome summer for you?
Yeah, of course. So, like we talked a little bit about Genesis. I went to Genesis with like $13 after I paid gas, so I was pretty fucked the whole time. I lost my debit card on the way, so I had no way of getting money. So I told the host, I'm like, oh, hey, I lied to him and I said, oh, I'm going to go to the ATM in a little bit. Can you just like sign me up? He's like, yeah, sure. So he gave me the hookup. All right. I did all right. I remember singles. I thought I was doing okay the first day. I'm like, all right. And then doubles came and I was hoping to God that I would make money in doubles or singles, but doubles seemed more realistic. And Havoc and I were playing this team from, I think it's Puerto Rico. It's a Peach Planet DDD. And first match, they destroy us. We get, like, 4-stocked. And that's just, like, for us, it was unheard of because we're supposed to be one of the top West Coast teams.
That's Excelsior and Ling Ling, right?
Yeah. So we're like, dude, what do we do? And I remember Pierce was right behind us. He's like, no, do this. This is what you guys did wrong, blah, 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 blah. And he just ranted for, like, 3 minutes of our mistakes. And next match, we 4-stocked them back. It was just utter rape. We didn't understand. And then third match, we beat them pretty solidly as well on their counter pick. So we won, and then we just kept going and going and going, and we ended up in I don't remember who we lost to, but we ended up in 5th place. And the prize pool for this tournament was so big, Havoc and I made like $180 each for 5th place. So I mean, that was pretty like unheard of at the time, at least. I don't know how big nationals get now for like Alex Strife's tournaments or whatever it may be. So from there, I have this $180. I'm like, okay. I wasn't planning to go to EVO, but like 3 days before EVO, I think it was Nizumi or somebody told me that, or I heard that they were selling their EVO pass because they couldn't go anymore. So I bought it off of them for like $15, and I just get everything handled at the venue at EVO. And I enter, and I ended up getting 3rd place, so I won like another $300. No, you know what? It was like $500 because I made money off of doubles as well. Our team of fiction, we got 2nd place, so I won like $500. So, okay, now I have a decent amount of money. So I'm there. I'm thinking I'm going to go back home. And some guy from Colorado, I forgot who it was, he's like, oh, you guys should come to Colorado. He's telling me King about it. We're going to have a big tournament next week. It's for, it's like $1,000 into a pop bonus, or like a $500 pop bonus or something. I'm like, okay. So I kind of contemplated it. I didn't think it was going to happen, but eventually I just thought I would save up I would just, deposit my checks and buy this ticket. So I stayed in Vegas for a week. I housed with this guy named Pat, man. And I just stayed there, like, with his family. It was pretty interesting. So I flew off to Colorado, and I found some housing there from Smashboards with this guy named Timothy, who I didn't know before that encounter. So I got picked up from the venue, or rather from the airport, taken to Tim's house, and we'd all chill, go to the tournament, and nobody really good was there. It's funny because this was after WOBO. So I told you I lost to Domo at WOBO, but Domo was at this tournament. So me at the time, I wasn't really confident as a player yet. And I'm thinking like, shit, I'm going to have to play Domo again. Like I lost to him. I'm bad versus Meta Knight. I don't know what's going to happen. So Domo gets taken out by like Dakar, and I have to play this Game & Watch named Dave in Winners Finals, and I 3-0 him. So far I haven't lost any matches this whole tournament at all. And eventually Dakar comes up from loser's bracket, and I have to play him, and I solidly 3-0 him as well. They were pretty close games, but it was just pretty solid. So I didn't lose a match in singles the whole tournament. And I teamed with the Game & Watch that I played in Winners Finals, Dave, and we didn't lose a match either. So I went that whole tournament like being flawless. Like I didn't lose any matches. No money matches, anything. So from there, I was going to go back home, but then I heard about Hobo in Texas, and after that tournament, I won after Colorado, I won $850. So I'm like, okay, well, I might as well go to Texas. So I go to Texas. This is where my ego came in. I'm like, well, I just like raped an entire state. I'm going to do the same thing to Texas. I go there, and I get raped. Meta Knight was banned, so I was kind of excited. I thought I was going to do well. I ended up losing to G-Ness and Dojo. Dojo's Diddy Kong. It was a very sad day for me. So from there I went, after that I won like $30. I was all sad. So I flew to Northern California. I'm from Southern California. Flew to NorCal, went to another tournament. I got third place. I lost to Tyrant because he lost to Fiction in a winner's bracket. And I came back home. So it was a pretty interesting summer. That was like my first real amount of time traveling on my own. I was gone for about a month and a half to 2 months.
Another question I would have to ask you is, who do you think the top 10 players in the country are right now? You don't really even have to put them in a particular order, just who do you think?
Mewtwo King, obviously. I mean, I think that goes undisputed. After Mewtwo King, if I were to give it an order, I wouldn't know who to put. I think Lee's very consistent right now. I played him at MLG Orlando and I won, but it was a silly game. At the end, it was third game and we're both at 140%, and he's planking me, and I run off the stage and grab the edge for invincibility, and I just spike him. So I mean, so just from playing him, it was just silly, but I think since then he's improved dramatically. So I'd probably put Lee as number 2. After that, I don't know, or it's very unstable. People were saying Ally is number 2, but I think just the past like 5 tournaments he's entered has proved that he has lost his touch for a little bit. As much as I hate to say that, because I really respect him as a player, one of my favorites to watch. But he's dropping. Lost to my boy Havoc, 2-0. What's up, Havoc? So I can't put anybody in order. I don't know. After Mewtwo King, it's kind of unstable right now. So we have Lee.
You don't have to put it in any order.
Yeah, for sure. We have Lee. We have Atomisk. Atomisk is so good sometimes, except when he chokes. When he chokes, no, he's not. When he chokes hard, basically. I gotta have my West Coast. Gotta have Tyrant up there. Amazing player. Larry, I won't say even more of an amazing player, but another amazing player. Like, how he just developed the Falcon metagame is so impressive to me. I couldn't even imagine how many hours he sat at home practicing his forward Bs. Who else is good? G-Ness. G-Ness is impressive. ADHD. Of course, you gotta have a little bit of ADHD in your life. Got a little banana. Got a little glide toss. Got a little down smash. Pretty good. mikeHAZE is pretty good. Sometimes. When he doesn't lose to Donkey Kong. I don't know. There's just so many players. It's hard to list the top 10 for me.
All right, that gave us a pretty good idea of how you feel. So you feel that you would rank yourself in probably top 10?
I'd probably be I suppose when I'm playing well. Like,
yes,
all right,
we're assuming all these players are playing extremely well.
But see,
so
then the thing is with my argument then is that if someone's not playing well, that would just add on to the consistency factor. And if someone's not consistent, then they're bad. So I don't know where I'd put myself. But let me John a little bit. I haven't had a Wii for 2 years. I bought a Wii when the game came out, and it worked for like 3 months, and that laser thing happened where it won't read Brawl, and I didn't know I could fix it. So I haven't had a Wii. But last week I bought a Wii. I brought Brawl. So now I've been practicing. So hopefully I'll step it up for the next MLG and for other tournaments I'm going to. I'm going to a Hobo in 2 weeks, Hobo 28. Should be pretty hype. The week after that's MLG DC. And it's finishing up at Dallas for my birthday, November 6th. So hopefully with this new contraption called a Wii that I have in my room, I will be able to step up my game.
A final question that we have for you, Mike. Now that you've been to a lot of national events, and I'm going to add on to this. First, do you plan on attending Apex 2012? Is that anywhere, and do you see that possibly happening? We found out it's going to happen January 7th through 9th in 2012. If you're able to plan for it now, do you think that you'd be able to come?
Yeah, of course. Is he not doing Apex 2011?
Oh, the thing is that he actually agreed, I believe he mentioned it, but he's pushing it back to make room for Genesis so that it doesn't conflict with Genesis, and so it doesn't conflict with MLG events.
Alright. Well, I heard we're all dying in 2012, so assuming I don't die, assuming I'm still here, I will be attending for sure. I wanted to go to Viridian City, but tickets to New York from California are just like over $300 even if you buy early. So it's kind of difficult to get there, so I'm not going to go to Viridian, but I will be at the End of the World, Apex 2012, 100%.
All right, awesome. And I wanted to ask you, now that you've been to all these nationals, and now that you're registered as a top MLG pro, what is your goal now? What is your goal for the end of the season, for the end of this MLG season, as well as if Brawl is still on the lineup for the next season?
That's a very good question. I've never thought of that. What's after? What is after pro status, right? I don't know. I mean, I think it's every Smasher's dream just to win it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if dream is silly, but I think it's every Smasher's like goal to win a big tournament, a national tournament. Whether it be MLG, whether it be an Apex, a Genesis, whatever it is, just to win. Like, right now I'm seeded 16th for the next MLG, so that means I'll have to play Mewtwo King. And for the past, 4 or 5 tournaments I play Mewtwo King, it's been third game, relatively close last game. So hopefully, now that I have a Wii, I can step it up, practice, and I would like to beat Mewtwo King at the next event. I don't know how realistic or how high of a dreamer I am, but I think it can be done. I think I can do it. So right now I'm just practicing, aiming to beat Mewtwo King, but overall I'm aiming to win a national event with hopefully Dallas. That'd be nice. Nice $7,500 in my pocket. But if not, it's okay. I'll live just having fun playing the game.
Alright everybody, this brings us to the end of episode 4 of Directional Influence. As always, I want to give a huge thanks to VVV Gaming for hosting the show. I want to give even bigger thanks for Will and Matt for joining me as they have been, loyally for the past few weeks doing this show. We've already gotten to episode 4. We're not obviously done yet. Also, mikeHAZE joining us for the show. Great interview. Glad that he could be joining us tonight. And to look forward to episode 5, we will be joined by his partner in crime, Havoc, as well as talking about Tier List V5 and maybe some other special stuff, so please stay tuned. As always, you can get the latest news on the releases of the show and anything we're going to talk about on the show by following our Facebook and Twitter pages. We don't have MySpace. We're not like stalkers or anything. So with that said, we're going to be heading out. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week on Directional Influence.
West Coast? Of course.
Yeah, I remember you screaming that and running around like the venue, like screaming. Literally running. It was pretty hilarious.
I don't know. I wish I was more clever for you guys.
Oh, it's okay.
GBD.
Hey, GBD.